In a Victorian-style house nestled in San Francisco's upscale neighborhood, Melissa Brady was working silently on a large design board. The afternoon sunlight streaming through the window tinged her chestnut hair with gold. After 10 years as an interior designer, she had finally established her own company and was now in high demand among San Francisco's wealthy elite. 9 o'clock already? Melissa murmured, glancing at the clock. Her husband Jason still wasn't home. That had become the norm lately. Melissa picked up her phone and sent Jason a brief message, "Working late? Should I save dinner for you?" After pressing send, she let out a small sigh. She didn't expect a reply. "I've got a big client," was Jason's usual excuse. As an investment advisor, he was always busy. At least, that's what he claimed. Married for 10 years, they would celebrate their anniversary next month. Melissa had planned a special trip. She had already booked a private villa in Hawaii and arranged all of Jason's favorite activities. Imagining his delighted face brightened her mood slightly. The phone rang. Looking at the screen, she saw it was her sister Ashley. "Can you talk now?" Ashley's voice was always slightly high-pitched. She was a beauty influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. "What is it, Ashley?" "Mom and Dad are coming to the city this weekend. Want to have dinner together?" Melissa thought for a moment. She had planned to finalize the anniversary plans with Jason this weekend. However, it had been a while since she'd seen her parents. "Sure. How about Sunday evening?" "Perfect. Oh, and I want to show you my new engagement ring. Brad finally gave me a real diamond." Ashley had been engaged to Brad Johnson, a real estate developer, for about a year. He was wealthy and able to provide the lavish lifestyle Ashley craved. "Congratulations," Melissa said with a smile. "Looking forward to it." After hanging up, Melissa looked out the study window. Across the street, she could see her neighbors preparing dinner together as a family. Children running around, the couple laughing as they cooked. She felt a tightness in her chest. When had her relationship with Jason become so cold? He was once passionate and caring. But now, he spent more time at the office than at home. The phone rang again. This time it was her parents. "How are you doing?" It was her father Robert's voice. "I'm fine, Dad. I heard from Ashley. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday." About that, Robert's voice held a slight hesitation. "There's been a sudden change. Could we make it Saturday at noon instead?" Melissa frowned. "I have work scheduled for Saturday. There's a big project with a deadline coming up." "That's a shame." "Well, we'll catch you next time." Ashley will be disappointed, but it can't be helped. Melissa was momentarily speechless. Her parents always prioritized her sister. Since childhood, Ashley had been the center of the family. Beautiful, sociable, and always attracting attention, while Melissa played the role of as the responsible older sister. "Wait, Dad. I'll try to adjust my schedule." Melissa tried to hide the irritation in her voice. "Saturday noon will work." "That's helpful. Carol will be pleased. Let's meet at that restaurant, that fancy place Ashley reserved." After ending the call, Melissa faced her design board again. However, she couldn't concentrate. As usual, family plans had pushed aside her schedule. At the sudden sound of the door, Melissa turned around. Could it be Jason returning? But all she heard was the refrigerator opening and the sound of a beer can popping open. She took a deep breath and left the study. "Welcome home," Melissa said in a gentle voice. "Were you working late?" Jason looked at her with a tired expression. He was still handsome. Dark brown hair, a well-defined jawline, and the polished air of a businessman. But the warmth that once filled his eyes was gone. "Yes, the Foster Group account is complicated. I'll be working late all week." Melissa tried to kiss him on the cheek, but he quickly headed to the living room, saying he needed to get some documents. A small pain shot through Melissa's heart. "About our anniversary next month." Melissa began, but Jason's smartphone rang. Sorry, I have to take this, he said, leaving the kitchen while answering the call. Melissa was left alone in the kitchen. She stared at the dinner she had taken out of the refrigerator. It had grown cold. The next day, Melissa left early in the morning. It was the final stage of a large office building renovation project. To ensure it would be completed on schedule, she was checking every detail. Melissa, this wallpaper color is slightly different from the blueprints, her assistant Jennifer pointed out. Indeed, Melissa frowned. Contact the manufacturer and have the correct ones delivered urgently. Late that afternoon, Melissa was on her way back to the office. Stopped at a traffic light, she was checking emails on her phone. There was a confirmation email for the anniversary resort reservation. As the light turned green and Melissa pressed the accelerator, a speeding car crashed into hers from the left. The world spun, glass shattered, metal creaked, and darkness descended. When Melissa regained consciousness, she was lying in a hospital bed. A dull pain enveloped her body, and her head felt foggy. Thank goodness you're awake, came a familiar voice. It was her best friend, Rachel Clark. What? Melissa forced the words out through dry lips. A car accident. A drunk driver crashed into your car, Rachel offered her water. Bad injuries? Fortunately, nothing serious. Bruises, a mild concussion, and a broken left arm. But you'll need to stay in the hospital for a few days, and then rest for several weeks. Jason? Rachel's expression clouded slightly. He was here until just now. But an urgent call came in. Work, of course, Melissa gave a small laugh. It hurt. That evening, Jason visited the hospital room briefly. Are you okay? He asked with concern, but simultaneously checking his watch. I'm fine, Melissa forced a smile. You should get back to work. I'll be all right. Jason looked relieved. I'm sorry, but I have an important business trip. I need to go to Chicago for a few days starting tomorrow. A business trip? Melissa was surprised. But I am. The business world doesn't wait, Jason said apologetically. It's a major account with the Foster Group. I can't refuse. Melissa nodded silently. She knew it was pointless to say anything. My parents? I contacted them. They'll visit briefly tomorrow. They have some business to attend to. The next day, her parents visited the hospital room as promised but left after just 15 minutes. We have an important engagement, her mother Carol said apologetically. What kind of engagement? Melissa asked. Just? A private matter, Carol answered vaguely. But I'm glad you seem to be doing well. After that, neither her parents nor Jason appeared at the hospital room again. Only messages. Rachel was the only one who visited the room daily to support Melissa. Melissa, let me know if you need anything, Rachel said. I'm your family. Melissa was filled with gratitude. And at the same time, the question of why her real family wasn't by her side weighed heavily on her heart. On the 5th day of hospitalization, a comfortable silence filled Melissa's hospital room in the afternoon. Gentle light streamed in through the window, casting soft shadows on the white walls. Rachel sat on the sofa, flipping through a magazine she had brought. Oh, a new restaurant seems to have opened, Rachel said, looking at the magazine. Let's go together after you're discharged. Melissa smiled in bed. Definitely. Anything will taste delicious after being liberated from hospital food. Just then, Rachel's smartphone sounded a notification. She casually glanced at the screen, but her expression suddenly froze. What's wrong? Melissa noticed her friend's demeanor. Rachel hesitated for a moment, as if choosing her words. Nothing. Rachel, Melissa said with a serious look. We've known each other for 20 years. You're hiding something. Rachel let out a deep sigh. Her eyes reflected worry and hesitation. Melissa, there's something I want you to see. Rachel handed over her smartphone with trembling hands. Melissa took it. The screen displayed an Instagram post. Against the backdrop of dazzling sun and crystal-clear turquoise sea, 4 people were smiling. Jason, Ashley, and her parents. All with tan skin, relaxing on a private beach at a luxury resort. The poster was Ashley. The posting date was the day after Melissa's accident. This is... Melissa's voice trembled. She felt as if the room temperature had suddenly dropped. I was debating whether to tell you, Rachel said quietly. But I thought you had the right to know the truth. Melissa stared blankly at the screen. Various questions swirled in her mind. Was her husband's business trip a lie? Were her parents' engagements also lies? And above all, why were her sister and husband together? Can you get my phone? Melissa asked in a shaky voice. Rachel retrieved Melissa's smartphone from the nightstand and handed it to her. Melissa quickly operated it and opened the online banking app. When she checked the credit card statement, she felt as if her breath would stop. Private Island Resort accommodation, $10,500, was listed. It had been paid from her card. The date was 2 days after the accident. With my money. Melissa's voice turned cold. While I was in the hospital after an accident, they were enjoying a luxurious vacation with my money. Rachel squeezed her friend's hand tightly. Melissa. Wait, Melissa suddenly said. Show me more. She began scrolling through Ashley's Instagram. One after another, family vacation photos appeared. Pictures of Jason and Ashley walking alone on the beach, dining together in an intimate atmosphere, shots of them gazing at each other against the backdrop of a sunset. This isn't friendship, Melissa said quietly. She felt something cold solidifying inside her. This is... Rachel gripped her friend's hand even more firmly. Melissa, calm down. I am calm, Melissa said in a surprisingly steady voice. In fact, I see things more clearly than ever before. She operated her smartphone and searched for Jason's number. What are you going to do? Rachel asked worriedly. I'm going to call Jason, Melissa smiled. However, that smile didn't reach her eyes. I want to give him a chance to tell the truth. It's okay, Rachel. Melissa gently squeezed her friend's hand back. Looking at your clenched hand, I thought I'd like to call Jason and see if he'll tell the truth. Melissa put the call on speaker mode and pressed the call button. After several rings, Jason answered. What's wrong? How are you feeling? Jason's voice sounded concerned, but there was also a tension in it. I'm fine, Melissa answered in her usual cheerful voice. I just felt lonely and called. I wish you were here. I'm sorry. The business trip is running long. I see. Where are you? Melissa's voice was filled with kindness. Chicago. I've been in meetings with clients all day, had meetings all day today too. Jason's voice was cold, and there was a sense of urgency in it as well. But behind his voice, the sound of waves could be heard. Gentle ocean waves lapping against the sandy beach. Melissa and Rachel exchanged glances. Rachel's face was red with anger, but Melissa was strangely calm. I see, give my regards to everyone, Melissa said. Especially to Ashley. A moment of silence flowed across the phone. What are you talking about? Jason's voice was trembling slightly. Melissa said quietly, by the way, will you return my credit card? How's the private island resort? Is the view nice? Silence again. And then. Listen, there's an explanation for this. No, I don't need to hear it, Melissa cut him off. Her voice turned icy cold. I understand everything. Goodbye, Jason. Melissa ended the call. The room was once again enveloped in silence. Melissa. Rachel said worriedly. Melissa looked at her friend. There were no tears in her eyes. There was only cold determination. Call a lawyer. Tom Harris. And also, give me the contact information for your cousin Mike Clark's detective agency. What are you planning to do? Rachel asked fearfully. Melissa's lips formed a cold smile. First, gather evidence. And then. She gazed at the sky outside the window. Make sure I won't miss them when they're gone from my life. One by one, steadily. At that moment, Rachel realized that something fundamental had changed in her friend. Standing before her was not the usual Melissa, but a new person born from the pain of betrayal. I'll help you, Rachel promised firmly. Melissa smiled. This time, the smile reached her eyes too. It was the smile of someone vowing revenge. On the day of discharge, Melissa sat in a wheelchair at the hospital's main entrance. Hospital rules, they said. As Rachel pulled up the car, a nurse helped her up. Melissa smiled and said to the nurse, "Thank you so much for taking care of me this past week." "Take care," the nurse said kindly. "Don't overdo it." As Melissa got into the car, Rachel looked at her worriedly. "Are you going home? Or coming to my place?" "I'm going home," Melissa said resolutely. "I plan to pretend I don't know anything on the surface." Rachel couldn't hide her concern. "Are you sure? When Jason comes back?" "He's still on a business trip," Melissa said sarcastically. "At least, that's what he thinks." As the car started moving, Melissa gazed out the window. The San Francisco cityscape passed by. The scenery was the same, yet the world reflected in her eyes had completely changed. "This morning, I got the first report from Mike," Rachel said while driving. "He took some pictures of Jason and Ashley. Seems they've returned from the resort. Can you send them to me?" As Rachel stopped at a traffic light, she took out her smartphone. "They came by email." Melissa took Rachel's smartphone and looked at the images. Photos of Jason and Ashley coming out of a hotel lobby. They appeared to be carefully keeping their distance, but the way their gazes met revealed intimacy. "I wonder how long it's been going on," Melissa said quietly. "We should have Mike investigate that too." "Yes, I will," Melissa strengthened her resolve. "I need all the evidence." Upon arriving home, Melissa carefully looked around the room. Everything was as she had left it. But now, this space looked different. The walls adorned with happy photos of the couple, furniture they had chosen together, mementos from their travels. It all seemed like a lie now. "I'm here," Rachel said. "Call me anytime if you need anything." Melissa hugged her friend. "Thank you. But I'll be fine. I have things to do." After Rachel left, Melissa headed to her study. She opened her laptop and began checking emails. Business-related emails had piled up. Many clients had expressed concern during her week-long absence. "Melissa Brady is back," she murmured to herself as if in affirmation. Hours later, Melissa was immersed in work. It was also an escape to distance her heart from the pain of betrayal. Just then, the phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello, this is Melissa Brady." "This is Tom Harris," a calm male voice responded. "Rachel Clark referred me to you. You wanted to discuss a divorce matter?" "Mr. Harris, thank you for calling," Melissa changed her tone. It was businesslike, devoid of emotion. "When can we meet?" "How about tomorrow afternoon?" "At my office." "That works. Please email me the details." After hanging up, Melissa took a deep breath. This was the first step. The next morning, Melissa woke up early. There were several messages from Jason. "I'm worried, we need to talk, let me explain." She ignored them all. Instead, Melissa began another investigation. While looking at the client list for Jason's company, a name caught her eye. William Foster. Owner of a massive real estate empire and one of Jason's biggest clients. And, by a strange coincidence, Foster was also a customer of Melissa's design company. She had been commissioned to redesign his downtown penthouse. "This is fate," Melissa murmured, tapping her fingertips on the desk. In the afternoon, Melissa arrived at Tom Harris's office. He was a man in his mid-50s, with calm but sharp eyes. Mrs. Brady, first let me express my sympathies about your accident. Harris extended his hand to her. Thank you. I'm feeling much better now, Melissa said, conscious of the cast on her left arm. So, can you tell me about the situation? Melissa calmly explained the situation without emotion. The accident, the discovery at the hospital, her husband's affair with her sister, and her parents' tacit approval. Harris listened carefully. Do you have evidence? A detective is gathering it now. Bank statements, photos, and evidence of his own lies. Good, Harris nodded. California is a no-fault divorce state, but in this situation, you can expect a favorable property division. Especially if you can prove he went on an affair trip with your money. Money is secondary, Melissa said quietly. What I want is justice. Harris stared at her intently. Revenge? Justice, Melissa repeated. They will simply pay the price they should. A few days later, Melissa arranged a meeting with William Foster. The pretext was a design consultation for his penthouse. Foster was known for his strict moral code. Melissa, I'm glad to see you looking well, Foster welcomed her to a luxurious restaurant. I heard about the accident. That must have been difficult. Melissa smiled. I'm recovering, thank you. How is Jason? Foster asked casually. He seems busy lately too. This was her chance. Melissa carefully chose her words. Yes, especially with his relationship with my sister, it seems to be taking up a lot of his time. Foster raised an eyebrow. Your sister? Melissa said casually, they've been spending very intimate time together recently. They were together even while I was in the hospital. I see. Foster's expression darkened. That's interesting. I hope it doesn't interfere with our business, Melissa changed the subject. I've brought some ideas for your penthouse design. The rest of the meeting proceeded with professional topics. However, Melissa knew she had successfully planted seeds of doubt in Foster's mind. 2 days later, Melissa received a call from Mike Clark. I have important information, Mike's voice was excited. Your sister, Ashley Morrison, is currently continuing her relationship with her fiancé, Brad Johnson. Yes, I know that. The issue is that she's hiding the affair from Mr. Johnson. The wedding is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Melissa sank into thought. Do you have all the evidence? Yes, we have sufficient evidence. Photos, hotel records, and screenshots of their messages. Send all of that to me, Melissa instructed. After hanging up, Melissa gazed out the window. It had started raining. Watching the droplets trickle down the glass, she formulated her plan. A week later, 2 significant pieces of news reached Melissa. First, a contact from Jason's company. William Foster had canceled a $25 million asset management contract. For Jason's company, this was a devastating blow. Second, a rumor that Ashley's fiancé Brad Johnson had suddenly canceled the wedding. Ashley's social media suddenly went private, and the scheduled wedding planner contacted Melissa for confirmation. I heard it was canceled, is that true? The planner's voice reflected confusion. I don't know the details myself, Melissa infused false surprise into her voice. Please contact my sister directly. After hanging up, Melissa laughed quietly. It seemed the envelope of evidence she had sent anonymously had certainly reached Brad's hands. That evening, Melissa was reading a book on the living room sofa with a glass of wine in hand. Suddenly, the front door opened forcefully. Jason stood there with an anger-filled face. What's wrong? Melissa asked calmly. It's unusual for you to come home at this hour. What did you do? Jason's voice was low, resonating threateningly. Foster canceled the contract. He was my biggest client. Melissa closed her book and quietly placed her wine glass on the table. What do you mean? I only designed his mansion. Don't lie. Jason punched the wall. He said he was disappointed in my private behavior. You must have said something. Oh, private behavior? Melissa asked sarcastically. The Chicago business trip story? Or the vacation with my sister? The blood drained from Jason's face. You knew. Of course, Melissa stood up and confronted Jason. I know everything. That you went on an affair trip with my sister using my money, that you were enjoying yourselves while I was suffering from an accident. Listen, that was. No need to explain, Melissa said coldly. Everything is clear. In our 10 years of marriage, you committed the ultimate betrayal. We had problems, Jason defended. You were always focused on work. And the solution was to sleep with my sister? Melissa's voice finally trembled with anger. Stealing my family, using my money, while I was alone in a hospital bed? At that moment, Melissa's smartphone rang. Ashley's name appeared on the screen. Melissa answered on speaker mode. Hello? How could you? Ashley's screaming voice reverberated through the room. Brad canceled the wedding. He said someone sent evidence. It was you, wasn't it? Melissa said, gazing at Jason, that's terrible. What happened? Don't pretend you don't know. Ashley was furious. You ruined everything. My wedding, my happiness, everything. Like you took my happiness? Melissa's voice was surprisingly calm. Like how you had an affair with my husband and enjoyed a luxury vacation while I was suffering from an accident? Silence fell on the other end of the line. Sister, accept the consequences of your actions, Melissa continued. This is just the beginning. After ending the call, Melissa turned back to Jason. Pack your things and leave tonight. The divorce papers will be delivered to your office tomorrow. Give me another chance. There are no more chances, Melissa said firmly. Goodbye, Jason. She headed upstairs towards the bedroom. Jason was shouting something behind her, but his words no longer reached her heart. The next day, Melissa called her parents. I'd like to have a family dinner this weekend, she said calmly. For reconciliation. That's wonderful, Robert answered with a relieved voice. We've been worried about Ashley and Jason. Let's discuss that, Melissa said. Sunday evening at 6, at my house. On the day of the dinner, Melissa made special preparations. She ordered French cuisine catering, prepared the finest wines, and beautifully decorated the dining room. And in the living room, she set up a projector and screen. Her plan was perfect. At exactly 6 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Her parents had arrived. Mother Carol looked tense, while Father Robert was trying to appear cheerful. Good to see you looking well, Robert tried to embrace his daughter. Thank you, Dad, Melissa responded coolly, giving him a light kiss on the cheek. Come in. 10 minutes later, Ashley arrived. Her eyes were red and swollen. She had clearly been crying. Ashley glared at her sister. Melissa smiled and held the door wide open. Come in. Finally, Jason appeared. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept for days. Everyone's here, Melissa said with satisfaction. Let's gather in the living room before dinner. As the entire family sat on the living room sofa, Melissa poured wine. Let's talk, she began calmly. About what's been happening in our family recently. Melissa, we are. Ashley began to speak, but Melissa raised her hand to silence her. I'll speak first, Melissa took the remote control. Let's look back at our family memories. When she pressed the button, the screen descended, and the projector illuminated. The first image was a happy family photo. Melissa and Jason's wedding, family Christmases, vacations with parents. Lovely memories, Melissa said. But this is reality. The next image appeared. A photo of Jason and Ashley entering a luxury hotel. A picture of them holding hands on the beach. Intimate moments at a restaurant. And evidence of her parents being at the same resort. What does this mean? Father Robert's voice trembled. I'll explain, Melissa said calmly. While I was hospitalized from an accident, you were enjoying a luxury trip with my money. During that time, my husband and sister were having an affair. And my parents knew about it and tacitly approved. The room was enveloped in frozen silence. 1 year later, at the top floor of a San Francisco high-rise, the opening reception for Melissa Brady Interior Design's new office was being held. From the spacious windows, a magnificent view of the Golden Gate Bridge could be seen. Melissa, champagne glass in hand, was chatting with clients and friends. Her expression held a new confidence. A hand lightly touched her shoulder, and turning around, she saw Rachel's smiling face. "Wonderful party," Rachel clinked her glass against Melissa's. "You've really succeeded." "Thank you," Melissa smiled. "I couldn't have come this far without your help." The two of them went out to the balcony. The night breeze pleasantly caressed their cheeks. In the distance, San Francisco's city lights twinkled. "Have you heard anything from them since?" Rachel quietly asked. Melissa shook her head. "Nothing. That's for the best." The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. On favorable terms for Melissa. Jason had complained about the alimony amount until the end, but ultimately had to accept all demands. "I heard Jason is now working at a small company in Seattle," Melissa said matter-of-factly. "It seems he couldn't restore his reputation after the Foster incident." "And Ashley?" "Her Instagram followers have plummeted. Sponsors withdrew one after another. I heard she's living with our parents now." Melissa looked up at the sky. "My parents have twice asked for reconciliation, but I refused. I want them to face the consequences of their choices." Laughter echoed from the reception hall. Melissa turned back and gazed at a tall man talking in the center. Michael Green, a partner at a law firm. He had met her as a colleague of Tom Harris during the divorce proceedings. "Things seem good with Michael," Rachel smiled meaningfully. "It's just beginning," Melissa smiled. "But he's sincere and respects my work." "Any regrets?" Rachel suddenly became serious. "Not for a moment," Melissa answered without hesitation. "Of course, there was pain. But through this experience, I discovered my own worth. And I also learned that real family isn't just about blood relations." She held Rachel's hand. "You are my family." "Cheers," Rachel raised her glass. "To a new life." "To a new life," Melissa responded. The city lights visible from the balcony seemed to represent countless possibilities. The shadows of the past receded, and the future opened brightly. Melissa took a deep breath. She was no longer a victim. She was a victor who had reclaimed and rebuilt her life. And above all, she had rediscovered herself. "Now, let's go back," Melissa said. "It's time for my speech." As she returned to the hall, all eyes turned to her. Michael welcomed her with a warm smile. Melissa took the microphone and began speaking in a clear voice. "Welcome to a new beginning." Her eyes shone with confidence and quiet joy. This was the true conclusion of her story of revival and the beginning of a new chapter.